Hello and welcome to the RTO Show Podcast. I'm your host, Pete Shau, and today I finally get to sit down with Adam Sutton. It's been a little while, guys, just so you guys know we've been planning on this for a while.
Tried to get it done for
We have, but things happen. You know how the rent-to-own world is. 1 minute you're there, 1 minute you just got to run and take care of some business. So,
right.
Adam, I'm so glad to have you on the show. Listen, guys, at the RNR Studios. Now, real quick interjection. If you don't know this studio, you probably should, because Adam and team have spent a lot of time making this happen. Is it Tread Tire?
Tread TV.
Tread TV.
Basically a YouTube channel, which is, the handle will be RNR Tires, plural, but we call it Tread TV, and hundreds of videos up there for that video SEO, right? YouTube is the second largest search engine after Google, so that's what it's all about.
Just so you guys are aware, there is a responsibility behind that. So if you're not getting shown on YouTube, you need to get shown on YouTube.
You got to do it.
But
good quality video. Let's
quality videos.
Make the rental industry look.
But I mean, honestly, when you take a look at the scope of what we have here at the RNR Studios right now, they have hundreds of videos for you guys to take a look at. If you don't know, now you know.
Now you know.
And one of the reasons that I have Adam here is because not only is he now the CEO of RNR Tires, which is actually expanding exponentially. Every time I turn around, I think I see another store on there. What I will say too is, as we're trying to get here, there's this article that comes out in our RTO HQ magazine, right? So
Fresh off the press.
It's about Tracy Cintron, who's done amazing things for this industry. And
that's the better article. I thought you were talking about the other one.
Oh, no.
She's unbelievable.
She does this great thing.
Our franchise director, rock star, just
absolutely. So we get on this article, and then it just so happens that the show is right next to the article, and Adam's face is right there. So you guys got to check that out. But having Tracy here, having the legacy, being the CEO.
Yeah.
First off, how are you doing? How do you? I mean, you seem so busy and everything that's going on. What's going on with you? How are you doing?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me and RNR. Glad you're here.
Me too.
And honestly, just honored to be on the show. We were talking beforehand. I love what you're doing, and I hope whoever's listening to this or watching this, that you pass this on to people in the rental industry, because I think it's valuable, just truly valuable, or invaluable, or both. But no, just really honored to be here. So thank you, and doing well. Honored to have recently been promoted, and honored to work in the rental industry, which I grew up in under my father, Larry Sutton, aka the Reverend of RTO.
The Reverend. God, if you guys listen to the show, every time that I make that reference, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. Somebody who's been in this industry a long time, and we did talk about generations because I felt like it was slowing down. But with you guys, it's spot on. I mean, not only did he start something, you've taken that football and just kind of made it happen in your own way.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the deal. I think anybody that's in the rental industry now, we can all thank those that came before us, because they've laid an amazing foundation, right? I mean, going back 40 plus years. And, but certainly for me to be able to come into this company about 7 or 8 years ago in 2017, it was just a great foundation to be able to come back to help what they've started, and just, help kind of bring that growth, and honored to be here, honored to play a part.
Well, let's start with that. So you're right now, let's take a snapshot. We're going to go backwards. So right now you're the CEO of Rent and Roll Tires, which is amazing.
Did you say Rent and Roll Tires?
Is it Rent and Roll, right?
So we're going to make a disclaimer for everyone. I'm glad you did this.
See, I'm glad we're doing it. Let's know.
We didn't play this, but I'm glad you did it, because Rent and Roll, we love it. That's who we were. That's how we started. My father jokes, says he always wanted to be a rock and roll star. Didn't make it. So he got a little R&R with Rent and Roll, and we opened our doors in 2000, which means this year's our 25th anniversary. However, there has been an evolution, which we became 10 years ago, maybe. Officially, I tried to make it more official when I came back. RNR Tire Express. So Rent and Roll is dead. Technically,
we moved on,
quote unquote, but it's in our hearts. It lives on forever. And, it did really well for us. We can get into that of why we did that branding transition. But, we go by RNR Tire Express.
Well, now
the marketing worked, because everybody, even in our hometown or wherever, I go, oh, Rent and Roll. Or we're like, we've been called Rent and Roll.
It's true. I mean, well, listen, I work for Buddy's Home Furnishings, and they say Buddy Buy Right all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And that was, we're talking about slat days.
Oh, yeah.
And so we start here. You're at the CEO. Let's back up. When you say you first came in a few years ago, you kind of rejoined and then decided, hey, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So you make it to president. Now how do you, let's go back to that day when you decided to come back, or dad was like, hey, you're coming in with us. Like, how did that happen? What was the thought process behind coming RNR Tire Express?
Yeah. So thank you. Good self-correction.
We got a good slide.
I'm actually really glad I have, because if anybody's listening to this, hey, it's rent and roll's gone. We love it. Good years. But RNR's here. So it's funny, specifically how I came back is my father called me in 2017, January 2017, and said, hey, I know you're leaving your industry. The company I was with, was kind of the right hand of the CEO, and we were selling. And you know how that works. If you stay, you would have been locked into an agreement, all this. And I loved it. I loved everything I was doing. But it was great for me. It was awful for my family. And, you know, I tell people I not only loved my wife and kids, but I liked them. Yeah. And
so with you,
if I had stayed in that industry, I just, you know, it just was hard to make both fully successful. So he knew that. And so he calls me and says, hey, can I take you to lunch? Which wasn't uncommon. I've always kind of been close to the business and acted somewhat as a consultant, and, you know, never went too far. But at the lunch, he kind of shares with me, listen, we're going to be, you know, I think we're at like 88 stores or something. We're going to be hitting 100 stores, and, you know, it's going to take a lot of things to get to that next 100. And I'd like for you to think about coming home, he called it. And, which is what I kind of say for the rent-to-own industry. Any friends or different people I've seen leave the rent-to-own industry, usually they come back home. Right. And this was his closing line. He said, I can't pay you what those other people are offering you, because I had 5 kind of job offers on the table. And he goes, so I'm not going to pay you that, just so you know, which was not abnormal. He taught me very young, since I was a child, if you can't take advantage of your family, who can you take advantage of? Right? I don't know if that's just rent-to-own, but growing up in the 80s in rent-to-own, that certainly was used and abused, but learned a lot from it, wouldn't change the thing. And he goes, but I got something they don't. I said, what's that? And he says, I have a job in Tampa that'll get you home for dinner. And that was kind of his.
Where do you go from there?
Yeah. And that's honestly, I mean, he's a salesman. He knew what I needed to hear. And it was just the right time. I call it a kind of God timing, a God moment, but just perfect timing, perfect scenario for coming back into the family business. And yeah, and then I just held him at gunpoint until he finally made me the CEO. So I held it down and tried waterboarding, and finally he did it. But
well, you know what's crazy? Because for the people who are really intent on the podcast, and I love you guys to death, that's kind of what happened with Tissot. You know, if you go back and just listen to that
part,
not the gunpoint part, but it was like he had to sit down one day. He had to sit down with his dad.
Yeah,
it was kind of
like that. I want to hear that.
Yeah, it was kind of like he sat down with his dad. They went out to, you know, after golfing, they went out to, you know, lunch one day, and he was like, hey, this is what I'm laying out, and that's what essentially got it back. So listen, guys, if you have anybody rent to own that's not coming back, take them to lunch.
There you go.
Buy them a really good lunch, and then tell them you can be close to home, and I won't pay you anything.
Yeah,
but and you know, but it was one of those things. Like, I think in both situations, and not that I'm trying to compare, but like
you cannot be compared to Tissot. Yeah, right now.
No, listen, he's got a lot to go on with the Sutton name against you guys got something going on, but it's like one of those things where, you know, when family really reaches out, and one of the things about rent to own is that it is family related. There's a lot of
it's very family industry, more so than others, for sure.
It can be. It can be. And because it's funny that, you know, you say time, because I've known a lot of guys who go rent to own that's pretty hard. That's a pretty hard sell for time. But when you make it work for you, you know, and you do what you're passionate about, you really don't work a day in your life.
That's right.
And I've got to say that, you know, rent to own, there was a time when I worked for rent to own, and there's a time that worked for me. And I like to say that this is a time frame where it's working for me. Yeah. But, you know, as you get that and you come back, where did you come back from? Because you have this hiatus and you're doing other things. What were you doing then that Dad said, you know, you're out there, you're working your tail off. You probably could be better at home. Let me help you out. What were you doing?
Yeah. So I won't go all the way back, but long story short, in 2004, started a creative agency with my wife called Red Letter Studios. In fact, did a lot of work for rent-own companies, Buddies included, Rent King, which you've been to those, and picked up a few REA awards. They don't do those anymore, but love working in the rent-own industry with that. Did that for about 10 years and loved it. Did pretty well with it. Very blessed. Learned a lot. I mean, those first couple of years of owning your own business, and I was newly married. I got married in 2004, married my high school sweetheart, and with a new business, and I failed so much. But you learn a lot from failure. I prefer to learn from others' failures. But in this time period, I learned a lot from my own. And I had a client named Thuzi, Thuzi, that kept asking me, hey, I was doing some consulting for her. I was doing stuff for them, and then they would bring me in and do stuff on behalf of them, and really unique things, digital, like they had developers. They were developing out some digital applications, primarily for social media, which was this is 2010. Many brands weren't even on social media yet, right? Which is kind of crazy to think about. But we're like, no, you're right, out head in the sand, and so they were very early on in that, and they just kept asking me, like, why don't you come on? Let's hire you. And this, and I was like, I love working for myself. I was in a pretty good spot and could make my own schedule. And but I was looking at what I was doing, and it was design and branding and video production. I loved. It was a passion of mine. New media at the time, which was really websites and all these things. I don't think by that time we'd stopped probably doing CD-ROMs for the older part of people in the crowd. Some of the digital things were just coming about. And I was looking at that, and I was like, okay, I was watching what was happening on the internet, and all of that was becoming more accessible, and all of these websites to get media, and just the knowledge, with iMovie and these different applications, just made that a more accessible and thus cheaper, less needed, so less price skill set. And so I'm watching my industry kind of be like, and I'm watching this social media thing, and I'm going, I don't know if that's going to have a bubble. Like, that's just going to continue to grow. And they were really early in developing some things for social media. And so I just thought I should probably take this on and learn a lot of things there and tap into the social media.
Let me ask you something. Are you getting everything out of your rent-to-own business? If you're not an A-Pro member, then the answer is probably no. Look, advocacy is A-Pro's bread and butter. This is why they were created and what they do best. But here's the thing. A-Pro membership is about way more than advocacy. A-Pro connects you to the movers and the shakers of the industry. People who've been there, done that, and they can help you do it even better. A-Pro's monthly webinars give you expert insights and actionable takeaways. It's like having a masterclass for your business every single month. Got questions about complex regulations or sticky situations? No problem. A-Pro's legal hotline gives you direct access to experts who have got the answers. That's a peace of mind that you can't put a price on. And let's not forget the resources, news, updates, and tools that keep you ahead of the curve. Scholarships for your team? Check. Disaster relief when you need it most? Double check. A-Pro is your ultimate support system in the rent-to-own world. So stop settling for less. With A-Pro, members get more. More support, more connections, and more success. Head over to rtohq.org and join the A-Pro family today. Because in this business, more isn't just better. It's essential. See you at the top with A-Pro.
You think so?
Well, I mean, it sounds like you grabbed a lot of that and brought it with you.
Try to. Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, so you guys just understand, okay? I've been trying to meet with Adam for a while, and I come in here today, and I will tell you that R&R has a lot going on, stuff that I didn't know about. And I see the studio, and I'm taken back by it. I didn't know that there was, the YouTube channel that had all these videos. There's a training center not that far from here where it's laid out for people to learn and grow and be a part of this business. And I think that's so huge for a company to reinvest in that and not only just say, hey, we're going to meet up every so often and we kind of we'll get this hotel room, which isn't bad. There's nothing wrong with that. But to know that there's an investment to say, we're going to do it so much, or it's going to be so important to us that we're going to make that part of where we are and what we do. It's huge. And so as you do that, you bring all this in, you come in, and now Dad's not paying you, and you're figuring all this out, right? So what changes happen when Adam comes, right? Because I don't want to say nothing about Larry, because Larry is probably one of the biggest names in rent-to-own. I can't say anything without saying anything.
Bigger than life.
Right. But, as we do this, the idea is Adam's son's made a name for himself. I don't think this is the same.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
Well, I don't know if this is the same R&R that was, and not necessarily that it was wrong or not right, but I feel like there's something different about it now that you're here and you've put your spin on it. And, Dad's kind of been able to say, hey, I mean, he must have trusted you. You're a CEO now, right?
He did.
So
one of the greatest gifts he gave me was, because you hear some horror stories. I mean, I think my 20th high school reunion was a couple years after I came back, and I was talking to a buddy I hadn't seen since high school, and hey, how's it going? And, catching up, and he's like, I work for my dad. I think he was in construction or something. It's a tough industry. And I'm like, and I just come back a couple years, and I'm like, oh, how's that going? That's awesome. And he's like, oh, it's terrible. It's, he starts listing all these like negative attributes. And I already knew I had it pretty good, A, with an amazing dad, but B, with someone who's not controlling and not just, no, I do it my way or the highway. Not to say we never got into any, nice conversations, deeper conversations and elevated voices. But I'm listening to this guy tell this story, and I'm like, wow, I have it really, really good. My father created a space for me to come in and kind of do my thing and bring in changes. And, the end of my kind of work story leading up to just filling the gap was I leave to go do this social media thing. And basically we were creating these digital apps for mega brands and doing some really unique things. We're giving away the first car on Facebook. I mean, giving away 500,000 blooming onions for Outback, in 5 days. And with that, collecting 500,000 emails and all the Facebook data. You can't get this data anymore. But we got it all back then. And then we were learning from it. And long story short, is some of our clients were, I give you two as an example, Gatorade and Under Armour kept saying, hey, we love what you're doing for us in the digital space. We do all these events. What could you do to tie the two together? And so we actually started inventing technology for event marketing for that live experience and sharing it with the online friends. So you'd be able to come in and you saw in my office some of the RFID wristbands.
Yes.
Would be your token. And where historically you'd go into an event, and I'll just use one of the fan favorites we used to always talk about, kind of put us on the map, but the Oprah Tour, we landed in 2014. There's 12 global sponsors in the fan village, right? Before you go into the big stadium and get your Oprah on. Mrs. Winfrey.
You get a card.
Yeah. It was fun. Yeah. So if it was, you get a light up. And we're all, everybody's dancing with these bracelets. But you would have had to go to 12 different global sponsors. So Toyota, Oprah Magazine, P&G brands. And you have to go and register to win that car, as an example, to Wells Fargo. You had to go register to scan to get whatever you're getting there. And so our system kind of centralized all that, but we also created some of that media background, all that fun stuff. We're like, we want to entice people to register. So we created all these really unique experiences that would instantly share on Facebook or Twitter or sent to your email. And so we were creating social amplification with events. And so long story short, that took off and did really well. We landed the Super Bowl in 2013, and now that's kind of ran on our platform ever since. If you go to any major sporting league event today, you're going to interact with our technology, which is really cool. But I learned a lot in that process from kind of being in startup mode, extended startup mode, meaning you don't have all the money you need, so you're scrappy.
Right.
Doing hundreds of events and, trying to figure out how to make all that work, and you're solving problem after problem. And it was amazing. I mean, all of it was done because of our amazing team, and learned a lot through that when I came back to RNR, was just trying to look at, okay, we had this great foundation. And honestly, I don't even know, for 17 years, I don't know how RNR, Tire Express, not Written Roll. If anybody out there just heard Written Roll when I said RNR, it's RNR. Asterisk. I don't know how they accomplished so much that they did. It was on the backs of these amazing people, right? Many of which are still here. It was like everybody you've been there, like wearing hat. Change the hat. We used to say whiteboard business cards, right?
Right.
And which can last for a while, but there's at some point you have to say, I'm no longer a startup, right? We need a healthy work environment, A, for the health of our team members, but B, to be able to get it to that next level. And so came in with a great foundation of what they had done. I was able to bring an outside perspective on some things because I wasn't just here. And if I had been just here, I wouldn't have been able to bring some of these outside things I'd learned from others, good things and mistakes, right? What not to do, and my own as well. So I think one of the biggest things, probably to answer your question, would be bringing kind of the scalability and trying to help build towards a scalable model more so, and productize certain things and just enhance all the processes of going, okay, we hit our store 100, actually right down the street from you and I in Sarasota, Florida, corporate store, most first store, corporate stores in Florida. But how do we get to that next 100? How do we get to 200? And I'm proud to say that we just opened up store 200 in December. And sitting here today in July of 2025, now we're at 207. Right.
Oh, wow.
Which in marketing, what we get to say, we're over 200 stores.
Yeah,
right. It doesn't matter if
200 plus.
201, we're over
it.
200. And so a lot of it is, I mean, the full credit goes to the team and the franchisees that are putting the money, in the effort of going there. But we tried to just do a good job of taking that 20-year, that 17th time year history and kind of productizing it, packaging it up, and making it where we could very quickly open up more and help enable our franchisees to get to that finish line a little quicker. And, a lot of that was just stuff, learning it from the software industry and the event marketing industry and, all of those things. But I wish I could take the credit. It's really a point of mirror back to the team and they were able to do it.
Well, it's a team that
taught me that when I was very young. You attract the right people and it's very easy for him and I. He literally taught me this when I was young. You just, Adam, simple trick, you hire smarter people than you and you let them do what they do. And that's been my secret to success.
Now you know. Now you know the secret to success.
Yeah. And look, I'll say something to that too, because if there's any leaders listening to that, if you hear that and you go, well, there is nobody smarter than me, you will not ever succeed as much as you can, because that's your ego talking, and you're going to limit yourself by that thought, right? Yeah. You need to make yourself not the smartest person in the room, and certainly mentally not thinking you're the smartest person in the room, and surround yourself with good people. Then get them on the right people on the bus and the right seats on the bus, right?
So I will say all the time, one of the guys that I talk to a lot, Fox Popular, I talk to Andrew a lot. And he's like, always, show me your 5 closest friends and I'll show you. I'll paint you a picture.
Right.
And it can't be much more clear than that. If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. Right? That's just the way it goes, And so sometimes it's great to feel that rah, and then you need to go somewhere else where you're being challenged all the day. So you make these processes that help the scalability. You bring these processes that help kind of the media and everything else.
And bring in the right people like Tracy Cintron. Go read her article.
You're right. Go read the article on RTO HQ. Listen, guys, I don't want to tell you, it's a great article, and there's probably things about her you didn't know. Like, I didn't know she was all that into pets, and she travels all over the place, and I thought that was awesome. There's also an article with Adam's comments in it. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Sure.
But so now that you come in and you get all that, what's really important, because you said there's a difference. You've got the corporate stores, and then you've got the franchise stores. How did the franchise model come out of R&R, and how much of a game changer was that? Was there a lot, it's like, hey man, we were built for the franchise model. I know we kind of trudged through that.
Oh. Well, I won't tell the whole story, because I believe you're going to have the Reverend of RTO, my father, Larry Sutton, on in a future episode. So
I plan on it.
Yeah, support that question, because it's a great story. But I can tell you, for some of the legacy folks that are listening, Mike Kent was a big part of that story. And so Mike Kent was around when Rento was invented, and just a great man, great family. The long story short is we opened our doors under Rent and Roll, Custom Wheels and Performance Tires, because you're the longer the name, the better. That's right. You don't know that. Just make it as many words as you can, and mix the URLs right too for the website. But some people, particularly Mike, heard what we were doing, and the 30-second backstory of my father. I said I grew up in the rent industry. He had a traditional company called Champion Rent to Own, and so together with his partner, they had about 100 stores. He had about 27 to 30 of them. And he had sold those. He retired, did a couple things, got bored. Again, you'll have to ask about this when you do him in the episode. And then he kind of came up with the Rent and Roll thing. So after a year or two, people are hearing about it, and it's like, man, that's exciting. Tires, wheels, what? So Mike Kent comes down and goes, hey, Larry, I want to see what you're doing. And my father's the most giving person on the planet. He'll help anybody give you the shirt off his back, which he has. And Mike comes down, and at the end of it, Mike says, hey, I want to do this. And my dad goes, do it. And he goes, no, I want to do exactly this. I want to call it this. He's like, go for it. And he's like, no, Larry, we got to have an agreement in place. So he calls Ed Wynn and says, Ed, you know me, Mike, I want to do this. And he goes like, okay, I know Mike can. We can do a license agreement. And so that was our very first license agreement.
Wow.
Storage, yeah. And
Edwin forgot to mention that. Ed, I'm going to tell you, you did not mention that when we had our conversation.
Yeah.
But, Edwin, if you guys don't know, is legal counsel for April for many, many a year.
A legend.
A legend. He was also a legend that's been on the show. He did recently retire, although I don't think he's out of the game fully. He always says, he's not out of the game. You can reach him. But so Edwin puts this together, and then is born the very first.
Okay, so that's part one. So part two, here's the next one. The next guy comes down, and again, I'll let him Larry get in the whole story. My dad, same exact thing. I want to do it. Whatever. Yeah, I got a license. So he calls Edwin. He goes, Ed, I need a license agreement. And he goes, I know Mike Kent. I don't know that guy. And Larry, if you're going to be doing this, that's really a franchise agreement. You're going to be a franchisor. My dad goes, I don't want to be a franchisor. And Edwin, true story, goes, I didn't say you're going to be a good franchisor, but you're going to be a franchisor. And he goes, why would you say that? And he goes, Larry, I've known you 40 years. You don't know how to say no. And a franchisor has to say no. And my father, ultra entrepreneur, and just, didn't want to tell people what to do. And he was attracting entrepreneurs. And so very early on, that's how we became a franchise, by accident, not by desire. And we really, in the beginning, were very loose. I mean, too loose. Me and Vince Ficarota, who's been in the rental industry a long time, is a VP here and part owner with us. So somewhere in my story, before I went into Red Letter Studios, as an 18-year-old kid, I used to work here when we first started in 2000. And it was my third. I had 3 jobs at the time. It was my night job. I'd come late. Vince always worked late, so we'd be doing P&P together. And I was doing mostly marketing, but we're inventing stuff. When the tire tech called out, I'd be down there slinging tires. And towards the end of the day,
yeah.
And we used to get in arguments with my dad, like, Dad, you're too loose. Like, we got to be more like McDonald's. We got to blah, 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 blah. And my dad's like, forget that. I would just let them do what they want. And the reality is we were both wrong, right? He was too loose, and me and Vince were like going too far. We finally found our sweet spot, and I wasn't here to get credit for this, but of being that balance of having the guardrails. You got to have branding and protection around your brand and your customer experience, but we still have some of that flexibility. And I know some of our best ideas came from franchisees, right? And so
that goes back to surrounding yourself with the smart people.
Absolutely.
Because if they're that driven, what can they do? Yeah. What can they do for the brand?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think 2003 we started franchising. So we're now over 20 years in that. And we used to say we sold franchises. Now we say we award them. Right? Because you just, you want this, you got that. So now we don't do that. Right? Pro tip, if you want to get into franchising, don't give it away. And it's harder in the beginning because you don't have much. You're like, okay, sign away. But now we really look at it for what is the DNA that we're allowing into the system. We want somebody that's going to fit into the system and the culture and our values. And so we award them. And we've turned people down, because we don't feel like they fit the rent-to-own culture and that relationship-driven business, but also our own kind of family-owned business that we want to permeate across the 30-plus states right now.
So in Sutton Valley, somebody wants to go into a franchise.
Yeah.
Let's say it's not RNR Tire Express.
Sure.
Let's just say it's franchising.
Sure.
Right? And I got this brand and I want to start franchise.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
No,
but,
that's great.
So what is a small bit of advice that you'd say, if this is your goal, if this is your driven goal,
franchise.
Right. So if you want to be a franchisor, or you think you got this brand that works, and somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, this is something I like doing," and your mindset goes, "Okay, what is a piece of advice that you'd say, this is a must before you go and walk down that road? You should know this or try that."
Yeah, that is probably its own podcast. There's probably smarter people. Not probably.
We can do that. I'm just saying we can do it.
No. So let me try to summarize in short, being short. I would say be careful what you wish for. I will say I love being a franchisor, and a big part of that is because we have amazing franchisees. But I talk to a lot of franchisors, and the bigger you get, the harder it is to maintain that, right? And I think Edwin gave this advice to Larry around that same time. He gave an old Abraham, it's attributed to Abraham Lincoln. I don't know if that's actually true, but he says, look, franchising is very simple. It could have been somebody else, but Ed, I'm going to give you the credit. The quote is, you can, and I'm sure you've heard it, you can please some of the people all the time, all the people some of the time, but never all the people all the time. Right? Yeah. That's franchising on a paper napkin. And so you got to be able to say no, to Edwin's point. And we didn't for a while, and that bit us in the butt, right? In 2008, we had a lot of closures because we let some people in that, shouldn't happen. And also we weren't giving enough support, I think, than what we should have been doing. So you got to be able to say no. You got to be able to strike that balance between being supportive and being firm. And you gotta, we talked about productizing things. You really have to know the amount of time, effort, energy, and money it's going to take, and the people to make a franchise sustainable. I mean, the hard, everybody thinks it's, you could go to any franchise rep company now and, here's 50 grand, make me a franchise.
Right.
That is the easiest part. By the way, there's a lot of risk in that. I don't suggest that. I'm not saying there's not good ones out there, but like your rinse repeat model, you're paying and giving up all this liability risk and all that. So I would say have good franchise lawyers. That'd probably be another tip. But that's not the hard part, right? You got to have a product or something that somebody wants to buy. Right. So you got to find them. That is hard. But the support is the long tail end of that, right? If you're looking at the graph, it's like, and then support, right? And that's the longest thing. And so you just got to be willing and ready to commit and to support that, because they are going to have, they being the franchisees, your name, they're going to own your customer experience. You're never going to meet their customers, but they're going to own it. And why do I say yours? We live in an online world, maybe. Right? So what
you're never getting away. You don't get away.
Is now on not just Better Business Bureau, but it's on Google, and it's everywhere. And now with the video film culture and the PR,
absolutely.
Something that gets done out there could be a high PR risk for everybody. So a lot of negatives, but I mean more so I say there's more positives than good. You just got to know what you're asking and make sure you're ready to commit to it.
You have this face. We mentioned for franchising, you're like, it's the greatest nightmare. But I think that, when you have people that are in this business, the rent to own industry, you have some serious entrepreneurs, you have some serious pioneers that, they're thinking, I don't know the end result, but I know that I want to get started.
Sure.
I know that this is what I want to do. And again, one of the things I love about Adam is because I feel like we both feel the same way. We're passionate about what we do. Yeah. I don't know if he's that passionate about podcasting, but I know that RNR Tire Express is, we started talking, and within a couple minutes, Adam's like, this, and this, because it's something that is innately built into you. I want to do this, and I want to do it well. I am concerned about not only the customer value, but what we're providing to the owners who come in and want to say, hey, I want to be a part of the RNR family. How do I do that? And how do I make this the best for you and for me?
Yeah.
So,
which is kind of a rent to own. I mean, what we're both passionate about is rent to own industry.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's that you can feel that from listening to your podcast, just from meeting you for a minute. And that is, you bring that to what you do in the podcasting, but it's a lot of the same values.
Well, we're trying now, flipping that on its ear. Being able to do that is being able to create leaders, people in the industry who not only have the passion to do what they do, but guys, this is almost just as, if not more important, you can't do it all by yourself.
100%.
You've got to create people within the industry that can also do what you can do,
100%.
Whether it be because whether they bring it in or whether you teach them, that leadership value is so important to growth and making sure that it's scalable.
Yeah.
You have to be able to teach other people who can teach other people.
That's good.
So going back to...
And you got to be able to trust them to do it.
What trust is... Absolutely, right? So going back to what we said in the beginning, there's a room not very far from here that's dedicated to helping those people become leaders and kind of leading others to success. How did that come about? Whose idea was it to say, not only do we believe in this so much, but we need to carve a niche out in home office and say this is dedicated solely to creating better employees that can serve. Not only can they grow in what they're doing, grow professionally, but also grow the business. Where did that idea come from?
Yeah.
Hey everyone, it's Pete Shau here from the RTO Show Podcast, and I want to tell you about a company that's making a real difference in the rent-to-own space. Wow Brands. I've seen firsthand how they approach marketing. And let me tell you, it's not just about ads. Wow Brands builds complete digital ecosystems designed specifically for the rent-to-own industry. Their e-commerce and lead generation strategies are built to bring in qualified leads. And did I mention that they are actively working with the rent-to-own industry while also being members of APRO and TRIB? Listen, these folks are passionate problem solvers. They don't just slap something together. They design, build, and scale the kind of digital retail tools your business needs and your customers actually want. So if you're serious about growing, reach out to Wow Brands at wowbrands.com. I trust them, and I think you will too.
Well, I wish I could take credit for that. I mean, part of it was just out of necessity, right? Because like you mentioned earlier, we were renting hotel rooms. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's been done it will be done for 50 years. And so
on and on.
But there's something about, you know, if you have the opportunity to do this in your office, about getting together in one room and breaking bread together, you know, big on that too. But things come out of that and creating that space in those moments where you're not going to get that from a virtual meeting. And virtual meetings are important, right? But there's something about getting in the room. So just making sure that we had that space here and we actually built those. I think I was telling you we could expand it, right? And knock down the wall and go further. And, you know, beyond that, though, I think what you mentioned is really valuable. But making it scalable, you have to be able to duplicate those leaders. And so for us, you know, I think one of the topics you want to hit in this section was kind of the core values and what we subscribe to. So you want to go into that now?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Okay.
Because through the leadership, they have to know what flag they're carrying,
Exactly.
right? That's another brand, you know. And I'd love to say, guys, just so you guys know, we support armed services. I don't have my red shirt on today, but if you guys support, please go to Vox Populi and get one of their shirts or red. It does support for the deployed members of the military, and God, I'm so glad that they're available. But you know, talking about the flag, you've got to know what you're doing. You got to stand for something, or you'll fall for anything, right? So, and I believe the statement that you were making about the people who you can and cannot, I believe it was P.T. Barnum actually.
Yeah,
but,
huge fan.
No, but
P.T. Barnum.
But I mean, that culture has got to be just as, or I don't want to say always more important, but it's got to be there, because if I don't know how to lead, I at least need to know how to act.
How do I fall back in? I love Walt Disney. I'm a fan of Walt Disney. I was in the event marketing technology space, but a lot of that's the entertainment space, and it's called experiential marketing, right? So, but all that comes down to the experience, and our main goal is to ultimately provide a value-driven experience, and that's going to be with our team members. And we use the word team members on employees. I'll come back.
Absolutely.
And if you don't do it there, then they're not going to do it where it really counts, which is down to the people. And I hate to use the word down, but over to the people who can fire anybody in the company and everybody in the company up to the CEO, which is the customer, right? Because they're the ones paying.
Yes.
And so create that value-driven experience. And so going back to kind of how do we make it scalable and duplicatable, and how do you make it important for your leaders? One of my favorite quotes, I brought up Walt Disney because there's a great Roy Disney quote, which if you're unfamiliar with Walt and Roy, there's just amazing stories there. But I love to tell people, you would have never heard, this is a sidebar, you would have never heard of Walt Disney without Roy Disney.
That's right.
I say that because leaders come in different shapes and sizes, right? Walt was this, very much like my father, this amazing, just bigger than life person. And, and we've had several of those in the industry, but there's also some amazing people in the industry that are more of the numbers and analytical. And that was Roy Disney. And you would have never heard of Walt because he would have not made any money because he would have spent it all if Roy was.
Right. So I read on that because he was like, let's just get it done. I was like, whoa.
And EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, if anybody's familiar with that, they would call that the visionary and the integrator. Not instigator, integrator. Right? Great system too if you're looking for a good EOS traction book, Gene Wickman. But the quote from Roy is, decisions aren't hard when you know what your values are, right? And so when you've defined and created those values, they're not hard. And so knowing that, I mean, that's age-old, wisdom, nothing new there. But when we were looking at the landscape of like, okay, we're going to be 100 stores soon. What's that next 100, which we just hit, in December, stores 200. But what's that next 100, 300, maybe 300 to 500 growth look like? How are we going to do one of the hardest things for a company, which is A, create a good culture, but B, replicate that 100 times in a franchise system where you can't always control it, right? And I do want to say this just as a disclaimer. I love our franchisees. I mean, I don't want anybody coming off this going, oh, he hates franchising. I love franchising. I love being a franchisor. And a big part of that is because of the amazing franchisees we have. But I just was trying to stress it is a very hard thing to take on. So just be careful
to scale. It's hard to scale.
And it's hard to scale. But back to this, it's hard to replicate that family-owned mindset, right? We have a lot of family ownership groups in our thing, but now, especially now, we got a lot of the people out of the rent-owned industry we've got a lot of just finance people coming in, and okay, well, how do we take that finance guy or gal and make sure we replicate this culture? So 4 or 5 things is kind of what I identified, which is probably in 1,000 books. I didn't come up with this. But when looking at creating a value-driven experience, I was just kind of sitting back and going, well, how are we going to do that? And how do we productize it? I like to use that word to say package it up and make it easy for someone to understand and align with. 2 of my, I'll start with this. 2 brands I admire. We mentioned one is Disney. The other is Chick-fil-A. You cannot.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, I challenge you.
Challenge.
People are going to send in tapes. Tapes in the 80s. They're going to send in links. Here, I did have a bad experience. I challenge you to go to one of those places and not have an exceptional experience, right? A value-driven experience. And so they happen to be 2 of my former clients in my former life, right? And really enjoyed working with them. Backstage, as Disney calls it. And so I kind of really was looking at that going, how did they do that, right? Is Chick-fil-A importing millennials with manners from some planet, right? They're not, right? And I can say that because I'm a millennial. Any younger millennials out there, you can't be mad. I'm a millennial. I can say, but they're duplicating this replicatable experience, and it's always this really great thing. Is you don't leave Chick-fil-A and check your bag. You're going to get the right food, right?
Yes.
And you don't go to Disney and not have a great time. So I think it's 4 or 5 things. One, what they did, if you pull back and look at it, one is they identified those core values. They identified what they're looking to replicate and who they are. Then they kind of productize them, they brand them, and they make it known, right? It's not a hidden thing that's kept behind this wall. It's out there. Disney has it in the 5 keys to success. Right before you walk on stage, you'll see, here's a reminder, this is what we want, right? Number 3, they hire people to that. They hire smiling people, right? It's much easier to help teach people rent-to-own or automotive or furniture than it is to teach them how to be happy or treat people with respect.
Yes.
We know that, right?
Yes.
The next one is you've got to train those people to all of those values and make it very plain and simple and break it down in a way they're going to understand. And the last one is you got to hold them accountable to it. Yeah. And that's one of the hardest things, especially for people-driven people, right? You and I are, I think, probably both people. That's probably a weakness of ours that we've always had to work on. Yeah. And there's a pendulum, there's a balance of, like all things. We can be too nice and too forgiving, but you can also be too accountable that nobody wants to work for. It's finding that middle ground. So I think looking at those 5 things, we kind of said, what does that look like for us? Who are we? Who do we want to be? And how do we replicate it? And I brought some visuals. Can we bring some visuals?
We got some visuals, guys.
Video on YouTube.
I did have to ask because he was so excited about showing me that within the first few minutes, I knew about it. And that's how you know that somebody's very interested and passionate about what they're doing, because you bring it to the forefront and you say, just like the leadership thing, I think within 2 minutes, he was like, this is our room and we're going to make it bigger. We're going to tear it down. And then, as we're going through, he's like, hey, let me show you this because that's important. Yeah. That's how you get that process down to the franchisees, down from the franchisor. And listen, if you're not looking to do that to your other companies, your other store brands that are just, you're saying, hey, you know what? This is how you get from here to there. And and I'm going to let you explain that, but absolutely, this will be the first time I think we got props on this show.
Here we go.
So I love this. I love this.
Slides and props. That's my thing. So no slides today, but I'll explain it for anybody listening as well. But if you've noticed on my shirt, I've got a logo here that says DX3. The letter D, the letter X, the number 3. And the visual here I'm holding up, this is just one of our mouse pads that we put out there because you got to put it in front of people. You got to remind them about it.
This is it.
Yeah. In the middle here is DX3. And what that is the D stands for driven, right? Because you can be motivated by something, but motivation fades, right? When you're driven by something, it's those values that
they're not going
fall back on. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere.
So we're driven. That's the D. X is like a multiplier because it's the 3 is our 3 core values, and they multiply and make each one better. And so here it is. The visual I'm holding up is a circle, and the first one on the left of the circle is culture. That's our first core value. Our second one is customers, and our third one is community. So we want to be driven by creating these value-driven experiences for our culture, our customers, and ultimately impact our community. Now, here's the beauty. This is in a circle for the audience at home. This is in a circle. So it starts with culture. Then it has an arrow going over to customers because you're not ever, ever, ever going to be able to replicate a great customer experience if you aren't treating your team members great. if you're not building a value-driven experience for your team members, you're probably, you'll have occasionally that good team member, he or she will just be that smiling person and woke up happy and, you know who you are. We love you. So I love you. But guess what? If you don't create a value-driven experience, they're not going to stay.
Right.
Because they're going to go somewhere where they're appreciated, or worse, they're going to stay and you're just going to squeeze that out of them, because people don't, naturally go up, they go down. That's easier. It's harder to go up. And so you've got to create a value-driven culture, which will then help influence that and create a value-driven customer experience, right? And quick note on that, I said come back to team member versus employee. Truett Cathy, founder of Chick-fil-A, I love this story. I think it took him 9 years to get "it's my pleasure" across everybody's lips, right? So that gives me a little bit of pause in what I'm about to tell you, which is this. I'm trying to eradicate the word employee in our organization, right? And I'm trying to replace it with team member. Very hard to do in the HR department too. They hate me for it. I'm like, remove the word employee. They're like, out of it.
We've got to say what they are.
And I'm like, okay. But wherever else we can, I want to use team member of employee. And why is that? It's this. And this is kind of the mindset behind the leadership style we want and we believe in, right? And that we want to replicate. An employee is transactional. An employee is just a number and they're replaceable, right? A team member, there's two things. One, they're on your team, and that comes with some responsibilities. They need to do what you need them to do because that's why you pay them, right? But the flip side of that is we are on their team.
Yes.
And that's a mindset shift. That's something I learned from my father very on. I think it's something really unique in the rent-to-own industry, which is why we have such longevity with so many people, is that team mindset, that upside down kind of pyramid. And when you show that and when they feel that, it helps create this visual through it here, the culture with that, right? And so the ultimate goal is we want to create a value-driven culture. And when you're doing that and you look at them as team members, not just employees, what's that going to do? That's going to create a value-driven customer experience.
Well, it's funny you say that, because the owner of Virgin Atlantic, who also believes the exact same thing, said, you want a better customer experience? Take care of your employees.
100%.
Take care of your employees, because they're the ones that take care of your customers.
100%.
And if they feel that culture, like, hey, I have somebody who has my back, they're going to train me, they're going to show me the best way. And if I have to say the words, no, it's for the right reasons. And not that we ever want to say no to our customers, but you have to understand that when they feel the culture, when they believe what they're doing, and they're like, this is all of us. We're all in a team together. How can I best serve you? That's when the customer experience starts going through the roof.
100%. 100%. The customer is the only person that can fire everybody in the company, including the CEO.
Fired.
They just stop paying you.
Fired.
They stop coming.
That's it.
Right. And so 100%, the goal, and again, none of these things I'm about to share are brand new, but going back to Disney and Chick-fil-A, how do we productize that? How do we design some easily understandable and recognizable things of who we want to be, right? And because once people know their values, it's not hard to make decisions.
Exactly.
So you start with the culture and create a value-driven culture. That ultimately creates a value-driven customer experience, right? We believe that will impact the community on its own. I think rent-to-own is one of the biggest industries that, as far as biggest percentage-wise for customer referrals, they're going to tell their family and their friends. By the way, they're going to tell them either way if they have a good experience or a bad experience. So you might as well make it a good.
What are you going to allow them to tell the people that they know?
Yeah. And that used to live in, at the water cooler. And now for 15 years plus, it's lived online. It's not just the BBB, it's Google reviews. It's all of these other platforms and places, including their own social media, oftentimes even video. Oh, you're talking to me like that.
Yeah.
So we've never had more pressure than ever to deliver, a good experience. But I'll also tell you, the younger the generation, the more they expect it. Like they're just used to it. In fact, 10 years ago, I read a stat and I was like, oh my gosh, that's going to be true one day. It's been true for years. Younger generations, millennial, which I'm on the outer edge of millennialism, on down, value experience over price for the first time in history.
Yes.
Right? Which is pretty wild to think about. So I hope you're going to deliver that because you want to. But if you're sitting there going like, I don't give a crap about that. Well, you need to, because there's a tipping point here where these older customers are aging out. And we've talked about, or you've talked about that on your show.
Absolutely.
A couple shows ago, I believe, where it's like that buying experience, that shopping experience, that mindset is evolving. And you not only got to be where these people are now in their shopping, but you got to treat them the way that they feel, they deserve, right? And let me pause on that, because I want to share what I tell my team. And I believe everybody listening to this will agree with this 100%. But when I'm talking to somebody that doesn't understand rent-to-own, and they're like, well, you have a product that you're charging more for, you're taking advantage of the customer. There's a lot of that noise out there, and not say everybody at rent-to-own's perfect. They're not, right? But they should be treating their customer amazing,
right?
And it should be value-driven. But I look at it, and I like to tell our people that we have the honor and privilege of serving the hardest working, most deserving, and oftentimes most underappreciated people in America.
Yes.
Right? I mean, they're doing blue collar jobs on down that most people, don't even realize how hard that is. And they're not feeling appreciated. They're not feeling valued. And they're oftentimes not credit worthy. So they're getting taken advantage of wherever they go. We have the solution for that, right? Come in here. We're going to treat you the way you deserve. We're going to give you what you want. And we're going to be with you forever. Well, right? That's the recipe for success in rent-to-own in a nutshell.
That is. Well,
it's the right thing to do, and they deserve it.
And the thing is, too, is that when you take care of them, these are essential situations. A lot of the times we think, all right, it is what they decided to do, and that's okay. They can do it. Yeah, okay. If you're getting your eggs in the morning, that's something.
Yeah.
If you're driving on good roads, that's something.
Yeah.
When you call because something is backed up in the bathroom, that's something. Yeah. Those are all important and essential. It's nice to say that my day never changes, but it does.
Yeah.
And those essential people that take care of us deserve to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Now, talking about the community, because we've got community, we've got culture, we've got customers. We're going to start with the culture, which leads to the customers, which leads to the community. And we're talking about customers and community. We have a stack. We have a stack of bags over there talking about giving back to the community and what that means to you and RNR Tire Express. What's going on with the bags? I'll let you explain that.
The bags, all right. Then we'll come back to community on the visual. So we're in our back warehouse here where our studio is, and Pete's referencing a few thousand backpacks, which every year, yesterday actually, one of my favorite days of the year, we get to pack as a corporate team these backpacks with a fully loaded back to school kind of kit. So the notebook and the paper and the pens and everything's in one. We put them in the bag. We've got this nice little note and these other things. Zip it up. All of those go to our stores, and we give those out for free to a customer or a non-customer, and they love it. I mean, one of my favorite things is yesterday when we stuff it as just a community. My daughter was here, and just the camaraderie of that, but also getting photos from our team members, from the kids wearing the backpack in the store.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is really cool. Yeah. So back to the graphic. So if you're watching the YouTube, I'll show you. If not, I'll explain it. So Pete just mentioned it starts with culture. There's an arrow going to customers and then an arrow going to community. So all the things we just talked about, when you treat the customer right, you're going to have an impact on your community, which is going to have an impact on your business, right?
Absolutely.
But we believe on top of that, we should be giving back to the community with our time, talent, and treasure. Right? We believe we don't want to just take, we also want to give, because we think that's the right thing to do. But here's the good news. When you do that, just from a simple, there's a reaping and sowing concept there, but also from a PR perspective, that's actually the arrow from community goes back to culture. And that's going to impact your culture, and people are going to feel a part of something bigger, and that's going to pay dividends. And that's kind of it for DX3, driven by our 3 core values. Each one's a multiplier on itself, and you can't talk about it enough. And I'll show you one more graphic here. We created what we call a field guide. I talked about this a little bit at my talk in APRO a year or two ago. And in this field guide, it's a fun, designed breakdown of who we are and what we're about and our 3 core values, right? What does culture look like? What does a value-driven customer experience look like? And how do we impact our community? So this is a breakdown of that. And then last year, we talked about, we created a leader's guide. Right? So we focused on how do we create value-driven leaders? Because the ultimate question is, how do you become a value-driven company? And the answer is by creating a value-driven culture. That will never, ever, ever happen by accident.
Right.
Right? How do you do it? You create and build value-driven leaders. Back to your original question, right? I'll close the loop right here. So what does a value-driven leader look like? We created some things, 3 things that they're driven by. And again, a nice, fun visual graphic, putting it in front of them. There's some supplemental stuff like that with our purpose statement. Our purpose statement is we are here to serve our customers, not just provide service. And we even shorten that, right? Just the branding guy that lives inside me goes, got to make it quick, got to make it relevant. So we call it serve, not service. Yeah. So that's kind of under the DX3 thing with our purpose statement. And we have that taking another line from Disney. When it's printed, vinyl graphic goes to all of our stores above the door when you walk out of your office or when you walk out of the shop into the showroom. They see, hey, serve, not service. It's that subtle reminder. Here's what we're about, right? And then our vision statement is changed lives, changing lives. And that kind of goes back to community. Like, that's our ultimate goal. We're not just about changing tires, right? Our 3 main things that we do is tires, wheels, alignments, with flexible payment options, obviously. But we're really about changing lives. And I think that's a huge testament to the rent-to-own industry in general. It's certainly a testament to my father's legacy that I have the honor of just kind of helping try to carry on and multiply. And I hope everybody listens to this podcast. That's just what they, and I believe they already are latching onto and helping replicate across the country, because that's one of the greatest gifts we can give to people, is empowering them, showing them what a good leader looks like by our actions, teaching them how to be a good leader with materials like this and you know, all the other materials that are available, John Maxwell, Simon Sinek, you know, you name it. And then having some grace with accountability and helping them get there so that they can go duplicate that and use their changed life to change more lives.
Well, if you guys talk about Simon Sinek, I'm gonna love you. I love Simon Sinek. You know, Leaders Eat Last, and my favorite book was, you know, Find Your Why.
The Why is huge. The circle. If you don't know that one, look up that YouTube video.
It's huge. Yeah. It's so important. But going through all this, you created this culture. We've created this mindset. We've created the franchise that we now go 200 plus.
Yeah.
You know, when you're talking about the leadership, talk to me about Will Jackson.
Will Jackson, he's a beast.
Okay, yeah. So just so you guys are aware, I do plan on having Will Jackson on the show. But Adam is actually the first tire RTO situation that we've had on the show because, listen, we're all in the same world. It doesn't matter what you have. The relationships are important. The leadership is important. And how we got here is important. And I saw something at FRDA. Will Jackson talked a little bit about Clipboard.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love it. I love it. Yeah. So it's not just that we're teaching that leadership value. We've actually dedicated somebody to really dial in on that. Yeah. How much has that changed the game to have somebody very much diving in and say, this is what I do. I'm not a manager who does leadership. This guy just does it. How well does it? Because he's the guy that gives away the cars, right?
Yeah. Well,
you guys see the videos and everything.
You know? RNR video, yeah. And I'll tell you the brief story on how we got there. But I mean, I got to tell you, he's phenomenal. One of the things that's come out of this that we've, going back to, you got to put your money where your mouth is. You can't just delegate culture to a wall. I heard somebody say that. And it's like, it can't just be the poster on the wall. You have to be able to, A, live it, but B, instill it in the people and show people what that looks like. And so one of the things we came up with is what we call DX3 Live. And it's a 2-day, the version right now we're doing is a 2-day leadership course. We've done 5 or 6 of them all across the country. I fly out in a couple days to North and South Carolina to do another one with Will. And it's just, those 2 days are all about leadership. And we bring in our managers, operators, even owners, we're getting good feedback. And Will just does a phenomenal job. We're talking about ego. We're talking about, you saw cleats to clipboard, which is, hey, how do I go from a player mindset? A lot of people that got promoted as that top sales guy or gal. Right.
Yes.
And you that's great. Well, that's made you what you are. But when now you got the clipboard, you can't just do it. You have to empower others and show them how to do it. And he just kills the sessions on that. And we've seen some great, honest feedback. We create some table time after each session where the group, like we tell them, you got to get raw and honest with each other. And just one of my favorite parts is just listening to the feedback of some of these guys are 15-year-old veterans of rent-to-own or automotive. Some of them are 2 years in, right? And they've never, one of my favorite things about this material we're doing and these DX3 lives and other things we've got going on is we have to remember, like for me, in my case, I always got to remember, like I've had a lot of privilege in my life, certainly in the respect of growing up under the Reverend of RTO, Larry Sutton. And I grew up in the halls of APRO, literally. And I would watch my father on stage talking about his talk he used to have in the 80s, RTO, which stood for Relationship to Opportunity. And I'm just, in awe watching this guy going, that's my dad, but also just not only what he did on stage, but what he did and how he treated his people in the store when I traveled with him on the weekends or in the summers, and that some of that comes a little bit naturally. A lot of that was from his mentors, and a lot of that's just him. How do you take that and replicate it? You got to go around the country and you got to do these things. Yeah. And real quick on Will, just, he's one of those, I follow this in the category when you have somebody like this talented, you just got to hire him. I don't care what you put him in. You just got to hire him and get better people around you. Right. I've known him for a long time. And we used to do a lot of stuff actually in the church together. We go to this mega church, and it's funny enough, I used to work at it 25 years ago. He did too, and we've known each other for a while. When I came back and we were building the studio and okay, we're in this video deficit. Video is a passion of mine. I'm like, you met Michelle, who's amazing national content manager who made all this happen. We're like, we just got to go create videos. We kind of need a spokesperson. And my father's an amazing spokesperson. He did all the Champion Rent-to-Own commercials. But I wanted that younger, kind of thing or whatever. No offense to my dad. He's young at heart. If you know him, he's, 35 at heart. We won't say his real age. And I'm like, I got a guy that would be so good. He's not an actor, but he's just great on stage. He's great. And so we started using him in that role as our talent. And then eventually I was like, dude, let's just get you on and let's go do this. And so it's been fun. It's been great. And you got to put your money where your mouth is. You can't expect your people to accomplish great things if you're not, helping them get there, showing them the goals and the targets, and then equipping them to actually get there successfully.
Just so you guys are aware, I didn't just happen to want to be a podcaster. It was the passion of bringing all this information from people like Adam and the Sutton family out to you guys and kind of just being able to see that. But, I've also been told, I got a face for radio. So, but if you guys don't even know, Will has this voice.
By the way, I wish I had the April magazine, by the way. He looks great. He's in the center folder.
I want to tell you though, Will has this voice like he could host The Price is Right. I mean, he has this voice that just, I love, he has that voice where he could do all kinds of stuff. I mean, he just, not only does he represent it well.
I'm not on the face or voice of our, by the way, can you make sure you add the manly filter to this?
We just got to drop it down here.
So it's usually a higher version.
I'm the same. But the truth is that he does it and he embodies it very well. Yeah. And that goes to say, when you're investing in your people and you take the time, and I will say it on the other side of that too, is if you guys ever want to make an investment, the biggest investment you can make is in yourself.
100%.
100%. Figure out where you want to be and what you want to do and how you can get there.
Can I add something?
Absolutely.
Today, the year of our Lord, 2025, there is zero excuse. YouTube was invented. I'm probably a little bit older than you, but YouTube was invented in our era. We didn't have it, right?
No.
Our kids, anybody in their 20s and 30s, you have zero excuse because you have YouTube University.
We say that all the time.
Every time it's in a video, every John Maxwell video, pick your person, and in all the available, even for low cost material, if you're not pouring into yourself, that's one of the greatest gifts. I think my father taught me very young when I'm driving around, he's listening to Zig Ziglar tapes. And so I just thought that was normal. So that's what I started doing as a teenager, right? And I'm listening to Zig Ziglar and some of these early people via a tape, by the way, right?
He's brought up CD-ROM, he's brought up tape, I just want you to know.
Yeah, I'm 40, I'm 42, so I'm an old soul. I'm not too old. And by the way, if anybody's over 42, I'm starting to alienate half the audience, by the way. That's not old, but 90s. If you're in your 90s, that's a little bit old. But no, you have to have that growth mindset and pouring into yourself first. I'm so glad you said that. And then you have to take the next step and pour into your people. Going back to, you can't expect these great things if you're not helping your people become great.
No, and
if you're not hiring people that can get there too, right? Back to that, you got to hire smiling people, naturally happy people. Well, it goes a long way, then you can teach them the rest.
You just got to think like Disney and Chick-fil-A.
That's right.
So after all this is done, you open this business, you get it going. Dad says, hey, I think we can get you home. I think this is important. You come on home, you really kind of dig in. We really build the culture based on how we treat the customers, on how
and
they
the
react in the community.
I can't take credit for that. It was
it
was just naming it and claiming it and making it replicatable.
We made it shiny.
Made it shiny. There you go.
But and coming full steam, getting to understand that Dad was a big part of the business.
Huge.
Being able to kind of trailblaze your own kind of way.
Yeah.
Being on APRO's committee of trying to get more people involved in APRO, just so you guys know, we're both on that committee. If you're not part of APRO, you need to be, because there's a lot going on.
Let me say this way. If you're not an APRO member, I love you, but you're crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
you got to be.
There is no good reason not to do it. It's not expensive, right? So it's like, the P&L. Just to have it and to be able to put money in an organization for the risk aversion alone, like actually look at them as an insurance policy. The work that's done in Washington alone is worth it. But the additional material, the additional training, if you're not a member, you got to be a member.
Yeah, absolutely. Just take a look at New York, and I can tell you it's important. What they do, what we're a part of, it's super important. So coming out of all this, what's something that you want to leave them with and say, you know what, out of everything you take in, talk like Will Jackson. No, but what is it? What is you can say that, this is something that I've learned that I will always take with me. And I think that if you embodied a little bit of this, it will help you on your RTO journey.
I mean, look, a few words, and it's simple. Love your people. They'll love your customer. That's it. I had the honor and privilege of growing up. I didn't go to college, but I tell people I went to LSU, which is Larry Sutton University.
I love that, actually.
When I came back here in 2017, I say I'm coming back for my master class, right? And I truly had the privilege of my first mentor, my father, watching him just love on people and watching him listen to people. He didn't talk at anybody. He talked with them. And if you don't have a good mentor, I mean, that'd be a tip I'd say on top of the growth mindset. The biggest thing you do for growth mindset is find somebody, an older person that has been, successful or been in your shoes, that can pour into you, that you can be honest with, and also can help keep you accountable. But growing up and watching him, I just watched how much of the right thing to do that was, right? Just love people because they're working so hard and they're working their butts off. The rental industry is not an easy industry. I mean, there's blood, sweat, and tears. Literally.
There is literally.
Yeah. And I think it's the greatest industry in the world, but it's not, it can be hard. And what our guys do in the shops, I mean, these hot shops with the tires, wheels, but the account management, I mean, the most underrated and unsung heroes in our industry is account management, right? Because that's that balance of grace and accountability. Find mentors. I was lucky to have my father. I was lucky enough to find some other men and women that poured into me along the way. If I could put some on my tombstone, love people. If you do that, in your case of your team members, if you do that in your home office, I'm talking to the owners, they're going to do that for your directors and managers. And if the directors and managers do that for the team members, the frontline workers, they are going to pass that on to the people that deserve it the most, which is that rent to own, that lease purchase customer. Again, sometimes we have to remember that. We can get store blind, we can get comfortable, we can get complacent or just busy. We have to remind ourselves and our people, like, this is a privilege. We get to serve the hardest working people in America and beyond. And, that's got to be, I think, at the baseline of your core value. And when you know what your values are, it's not hard to make decisions by.
Well, I mean, listen, words to live by. Make sure that you love everybody. Make sure you have the growth mindset. Find a good mentor. I think in the end, the idea has to be, how do I get better at what do I do?
Yeah.
How do I get better? I did not conquer this. It is always a hill to be climbed.
Yeah.
And there are going to be times where you hit a tier and you're like, finally, it's behind me. Now I've got another tier to climb, right? You kind of beat your chest and you put it back on the shelf and you put the trophy away and, okay, what else do I need to learn? Because we're always learning, whether, like you said earlier, whether you're learning from the franchisors, whether you're learning from the guy who's in the bay, whether you're learning from your GMs, or whether you're one of the guys learning from them and you have an idea to share, don't stop sharing. We are all in this together. Listen, no one person is smarter than the entire group. Share what you know. get it all together, get it all out, experience it. Now, we're going to be going into RTO World very soon where we're going to be able to do that. You're actually going to be able to see him talk to people, right? So you're going to be able to see it firsthand. So, we have the culture, the customers, the community. Guys, it doesn't get any better than this. At the end, do what you do best. Lean on your others.
Yeah.
Learn from things like this, from either the YouTube situation or however that we look at it. Learn, grow, and be who you can be.
Yeah.
And I would say,
find a good mentor, and eventually I'll add to that, going back to giving back, be a good mentor.
Be a good mentor.
Give back, find ways, not just in your company, but in your community. When you go to serve and you start giving back, some people that's going to excite them. Oh, I love doing that. And some people are like, I'm talking to everybody. You go do that. You start serving others and you're going to get better. And I love what you said from anybody and everybody. One of the best pieces of advice I learned from a janitor at one of my first jobs as a teenager, I was a janitor, and it was the concept of work smarter, not harder. That was sweeping a floor, right? She came over and she taught me, hey, Adam,
one of my
let me show you this.
that.
And I've carried that with me my entire life, applied it to every single thing I've done. Are we okay if I share one more quick thing?
No, absolutely.
One of the most beneficial things that has helped me, I learned when I was 15 years old. And right before I learned that note from the janitor. And it was the story of Hamburg. I read this from somebody I followed, this famous person that talked about how he became famous and very successful. And he says it had helped him. So I love sharing this, particularly for young leaders. Hamburg, Germany, okay, post-World War II, there was this little band called the Beatles. And their manager,
little band.
Well, at the time they were little, right?
Yeah.
Nobody had heard of them.
Right.
And their manager had secured this year-long gig at this pub when they were nobody. They were teenagers, right?
Okay.
And and basically they hated it. Like, it was awful. People are throwing beer, fruit, like people are drunk, like they didn't sound that great, right? If you asked them at the time, any of the Beatles, they would have said, this is awful. I hate it. I don't even know if I want to be a musician anymore, right? But if you ask them later, they say, it was in Hamburg that we became the Beatles. It was in Hamburg that we got better at our instruments, that we found our sound. We got our haircuts and matching outfits, right? Which is a big deal back then. That was kind of a unique thing.
It was.
And they found their drummer. That crafting and that molding through all that hard stuff, through repetition and through continuing to try and not giving up, they became what the world soon after heard and found out about and now beloves, right? Which was the Beatles. And so I read this story and this famous gentleman was telling how he just applied that to everything he did. And so I've had that mindset, which now is probably called a growth mindset, since I was 15 years old. Is what I'm doing now is probably not what I'm going to be doing forever. So what can I learn and get better at? And when my flesh is tempted to want to complain about it and be negative, I go, no, that's hardening me and it's stretching me. And as I look back on my career, I started at the janitor job. I started some things at the church. I learned things there that ultimately helped me create Red Letter Studios with my wife. And for that 10 years, learned what not to do by doing all the wrong things for a long time, and learned how to work with clients and customers and build. And that prepared me for Thursday. And I couldn't be doing what I'm doing now if that 6 years at Thursday, all the fire and the iron sharpens iron inside of that, and learning from others with different mindsets, all the developers, completely different train of thought, right? Analytical thinker people.
Yes.
And even now I go, and I'm not going anywhere, by the way, but what can I be learning now? And what Hamburg am I in that's preparing us to do what we're doing even better? And anyway, I love sharing that story. I thank you for letting me share it, because as a young leader, that just gave me a little bit of pause, patience, and hope that has kind of carried me through to today.
Well, I will say, one of the bands that I like, they God Bless the Broken Road, right?
Yeah.
So, it's the things that got us here that help to build who we are.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
That's
just
right.
Figuring out who you are, where you want to go, and how to get there.
Love it.
That's how we do it. So listen, if you guys have any questions for Adam, you definitely want to check us out on the show. Now, you can send me an email at pete@the RTOshowpodcast.com, but that's not the only way. You can also send me a DM to Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. You can go on to YouTube.
All the things.
It's everywhere, right? Because you got to be searchable on YouTube.
That's right.
Make sure that you reach out to us. If we have anything that comes up, we'll definitely ask Adam, and if he wants to be on a second time, we can also do that. Listen,
Nobody
guys,
wants that. I'll say it this time.
We also want to tell you, listen, there's a lot going on in the world between Texas and New Mexico. Don't forget to go to APRO and give what you can. I'm not saying you have to, but if you can, please give what you can, because it does help our RTO family members that are in need to just get through another situation that's going on right now out of their control. It really helps.
Yeah.
Also,
and let your team members know that, right?
Absolutely.
And they will see you doing that. That's going back to the community impact. We'll impact your culture.
We actually have a link on the website at the RTO Show Podcast.com, but you can go to RTOHQ.com and also, or is it .org?
.org.
I'm sorry, RTOHQ.org. You can also go on there and donate. So either way.
You guys fact check them on all those channels.
I know, right?
Yeah, we'll fact check both of us.
Make sure you send me a message, Pete, that wasn't right. But do that. And if you want to support the show, by all means, you can also go buy some swag on the show, because it not only does it help us, but it makes you look really good out there in the world.
That's
just
true.
Like this studio for R&R. This
elevates you up, baby.
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
So we appreciate you guys being on the show. Adam, I really appreciate you being here. It's been a blast.
Oh, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure.
We're going to have to do this again. And if you guys don't know, listen, get your collections low to get your sales high. Have a great one.
Take care, everybody. Thanks so much.